Good morning, and thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to kick off this morning with some words from Salt Lake City Mayor Erin Mendenhall, followed by an update from Salt Lake City Police Chief Mike Brown. Thank you.
Good morning. The streets of Salt Lake City are quiet and calm this morning, and we are fortunate for that compared to many other cities around our nation today. I want to thank the people who complied with the curfew last night. It was the right thing to do. I'm also really grateful for the work of the Salt Lake City Police Department and the support of many neighboring police agencies, in addition to the Utah Highway Patrol and the National Guard. Yesterday morning, along with the Salt Lake City Police Department and the Salt Lake City Council, I released a letter to our city residents about where we stand on transparent policing. As a city, we meant every word we said, and that statement is no different this morning than it was yesterday morning before the protest. We are united in our work, and we acknowledge that we can always do better as a city and as a police department. We're committed to doing that work with our community. Even before yesterday's events, we had begun conversations with community leaders of color to help advise and review on our policies. We want to ensure transparent and equitable policing, and we want that to be an evolving piece of work that is ever striving to improve. With that in mind, following yesterday's events, I've asked Chief Brown for a thorough after-action review of our police department's response to protesters. If you were downtown yesterday and you believe that there were any incidents of inappropriate use of force, I ask that you file a complaint. You can do that through the web, email, phone, and the reports can be anonymous. There's no wrong way to make a complaint. And this is something the Salt Lake City Police Department has always had available. These reports are investigated by our Internal Affairs Department, but I'm also making the request that the Civilian Review Board, which is comprised of volunteers representing all 7 districts of Salt Lake City, that they review any allegations of inappropriate use of force. In addition, if anyone had interaction with or witnessed the actions of a man with a bow and arrow yesterday who came into the crowd, please call and make a report to our police department. That information will help us build our case against him, and we ask that you reach out. Today, we'll continue to see Salt Lake City Police Department on our streets and assisting agencies helping us keep the peace. Our city employees are in the process of assessing all the infrastructure damage, and they've already begun some of the recovery efforts. I know our street sweepers have been out this morning, and the streets are looking pretty good. I know a lot of people are reaching out and asking how they can help the city. I have heard from residents and mayors, people from areas even on the Wasatch Back asking if they can come in and help volunteer. We even saw this morning a pretty huge pile of yard trash bags that have been filled, tied up, and left outside our city and county building, where people came out and did some cleanup on their own between the time I went to bed and early this morning. Thank you. We're grateful, and we hope to actually have some organized opportunities later today. We'll let you know when those become available. As they do, we're still assessing the damage and safety, particularly during COVID-19 and a pandemic, is our number one priority. So we're asking people to stay home for now and let us get our arms around the cleanup opportunities as we see them. We do want to direct any energy and spirit that is being felt around volunteerism and helping. It's such a beautifully unique Utah quality that we have. And I, again, urge people to exercise grace. We are all hurting from this week. And yesterday in particular was heartbreaking for our city and cities across the country. But this is about something much deeper and longer lasting than a protest or a riot. And we know that. Please be kind to one another, reach out to your neighbors, check in on each other. We will recover, and we will recover by coming together to rebuild policies and to address, unearth, unpack the systemic racism that exists in this city and in every city across this nation. We're ready to get to work, and I'll turn the time over to Chief Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. Strong words. We will be better. I want to thank the women and men from all the agencies who helped us last night and continue today. Standing shoulder to shoulder with us, they were pelted with bottles, rocks, bricks, water valve covers were thrown at them. They were spat upon. They suffered through the heat, and many were treated for heat exhaustion. Thank you, Salt Lake City Fire Department, for your medical support. We couldn't have done it without you. Significant staff from UHP, Unified Police Department, West Valley City Police Department, the Army National Guard, the Air National Guard, and this morning, the Sheriff's Associations from across the state have sent their officers to our city to help us. The agencies and the numbers are too numerous to count for right now. We want to thank them for standing at our side as we stood against the vandals wreaking havoc across our city last night. I want to personally thank Mayor Mendenhall for her leadership. Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Governor, for your support, Commissioner Anderson, but especially the community of Salt Lake. When I drove home last night, well, not last night, early morning, the city was empty. You heeded our call. You stayed home. Thank you. And your continual outpouring of love and support is so welcoming. Thank you, Salt Lake City. This is the best city. I just want to tell you thank you. I want you to know that we are fully staffed. I want to remind everybody the curfew is still in place. So we really need your help today, and we will get through this together. Thank you. As far as some numbers, right now we have 21 officers that have been treated for some sort of medical issue. One was more serious, the one I spoke about last night, where he was hit in the back of the helmet with a baseball bat. We've made about 41 arrests. Most of those were failure to disperse. We had several arrests for assault on police officers, and the remaining were curfew. In the next couple hours, we will put those numbers together and give you further details as to who these people are and where they might be from. I have a suspicion that we have some people that have come here to instigate this kind of violence, and we will not stand for that. Again, that's what I have. Mayor, are we going to take a few questions?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Yes, I believe we have a question first from Ben Winslow from Fox 13.
Hi, Mayor. It's Ben Winslow from Fox 13. Do you have any plans to extend the curfew or modify any restrictions at this point?
You know, we'd love to loosen the curfew, but this is something that I am absolutely relying on, and in concert working with Chief Brown and the police department, we've learned from incidents in the past in our nation's history, even in the last couple of years, that lifting a curfew too soon can have some pretty dramatic repercussions. So we need to make sure that we have Salt Lake City under control, that the safety and security of our residents is assured. And so we will not lift it prematurely, but it's something we're in conversation about.
Chief, on the issue with the man with the bow and arrow, what is happening to him? There are certainly a lot of people very upset he was not taken into custody right away.
We're looking into that. That is one of our priority investigations, and we will follow up on that. And again, when I'm able to give you the numbers in more specific details, we'll talk about that. Okay, that was troubling. That was a horrible situation.
And I'll reiterate that we would really appreciate anyone who witnessed or was around that situation at the time reaching out to the police department to give us information about that to help build that case.
We next have a question from Ross Terrell.
Hi, this is Ross Terrell from KUER. One to both the mayor and the chief. What's the current presence of the National Guard? How long do you expect them to be here? And also, Mayor, you mentioned that we still are in a pandemic with COVID-19. Do you have any concerns that this may lead to a spike in cases? And also, have you done any early estimates of how much this may cost the city when you talk about damage to squad cars and having to call in other agencies?
I'll let Chief talk about the National Guard presence component, but absolutely, we are constantly worried about COVID-19 as Salt Lake City, particularly 84116, is the most intense concentration of positive cases in the state of Utah. You know that Salt Lake City is the only city that's still in the orange phase in the entire state. So absolutely we are, particularly after those last couple of days with very high numbers of positive cases reporting. That is an ever-present concern for us. You had one other question. Assessing the.
As far.
Well, let me just say, Chief, that our crews are out there. Our buildings are being assessed and boarded where they need to be. Street crews are out there. Of course, we'll be evaluating with the police department the loss of the vehicle on their side. We don't yet have a cost estimate.
As far as the National Guard and their support, they're still here with us. I'm looking out of our AOC and their command staff is sitting out there. Their officers and their staff are still here, and they're committed until the end of this curfew, and if it goes further. So again, we couldn't have done it without them. And as I said last night, we are committed and we are staffed to continue through this curfew operational period.
Got it. And lastly, Mayor, do you have an estimate of how many buildings have been damaged?
I'm sorry I don't at this time, but we do plan to give you another update today, and I'll try to have that information then. But I want to thank Chief Brown again. It was a calculated and strategic decision to allow people to protest, and recognizing that we can clean up paint, we can replace windows, as tragic and as much as we don't condone that kind of action. As we looked at what was happening across the nation, where police, interfere with aggressive situations that were unrolling, we prioritized human life and people's rights to protest. And I think at this point, I just want to say again that I think the police took a really calculated and appropriate tact. Of course, we're sorry for the property damage that has been incurred to private property owners and for the feelings of insecurity that all of us have felt over the last 24 hours. But we will clean up, we will repair, and we're already doing so as a city.
Thank you. We have a question now from Laura Jones.
Yes, Mayor, Chief Brown, by all appearances, the initial event seemed like a peaceful protest, and it devolved later in the evening with what could be called a different group of people. Any data on those arrested? Did they live in Salt Lake City? Any thoughts on that? Laura,
good to see you. Yes, we are collecting that data right now because I honestly believe that there were people from out of state that came in here to instigate some of this violence, but we will follow through with that. And shortly, in a couple hours, when we get that data put together, I'll release that out. But that's a great question, and we want that answer too.
We next have a question from Christina Flores, Channel 2.
Good morning, Chief. My question is for you. What I want to know is, police departments everywhere are under a lot of scrutiny, a lot of criticism right now, including here in Salt Lake City. How do you do your job, and what are you telling your officers about working under this condition, yet still at the same time serving the people of Salt Lake City? How do you proceed?
Christina, can you please state that one more time? We had somebody walk in with the radio on, and I missed the first part of that.
Yeah, no problem. My question is, right now there's so much criticism of police officers here in Salt Lake City and everywhere else. You're under a lot of scrutiny. There's going to be requests for body cam, et cetera. Yet at the same time, your officers have to go out there and protect the public. So how do you, what are you telling your officers about how do you do your job right now and feel good about it, while all these other things are going on at the same time?
Christina, I really don't have to tell our officers anything. It's what they do. They signed on to do this job. It's in their DNA. They are here to serve and protect. We have trained them, and I, as a chief, trust in their ability to go out and conduct themselves to the highest standard. We welcome the criticism and critique in a positive fashion, because if you're standing still or if you're coasting, you're going downhill. You always have to strive to be a better police department. So in the next few weeks, I know the mayor's talked about it, we're going to kind of open up, pull back the the drapes, look at some of our policies, allow people to comment on them. Are there things that we can do better? I want to hear that. I want to have critical conversation. I want to have positive conversation. I don't want, and I've said this before, we cannot have meaningful conversations in a riotous situation. That is not productive. We will sit down with anybody to talk about what we have done and what we can do to be a better police department.
How are the officers feeling today? You know, you said they were spat upon. Some of them were, I guess, hit with a baseball bat, you mentioned. How are they feeling?
They're exhausted. They're tired, but they will never give up. They're good people.
Thank you. We next have a question from Jennifer Gardner at ABC4.
Hi, thank you. I first want to express our gratitude to the city leaders for this very difficult time. And I can see that it's very trying, and I know everybody's tired. Just a quick question from us. We've received some emails, phone calls, and comments about people that are forming groups to do cleanup efforts. And I understand that the city is under a curfew. I did address that with a few of them. Could you please give us some direction on what to say or do for those people who really want to jump in and help? I understand that the city has, and I know that the governor put out something last night about cleanup efforts being basically brought in by somebody else. But people are now really trying to help. What do we do in this situation for today?
We'd ask people to hold off right now. The trash is not going anywhere. The spray paint is not going anywhere. And we want to go about it in an appropriate way. Also, doing graffiti removal is not an easy task. And there's a lot of ways to do more damage, in fact. And so please let us organize, and please let this curfew stand. Let's not compromise the safety and security of our residents by sending people out, meaning to do well, but really compromising the situation. So please hold off for now. It's not going anywhere. Let us get organized. And we are so grateful for the spirit of volunteerism that's cropping up around this. I know that's the heart of Salt Lake City.
And Mayor, I just want to follow up and say thank you to Salt Lake City. That's the spirit. That's what we're all about right there. But we'll let you know when we can move out and do these things. But last comment, a big shout out to the officers, all of them, that put everything on the line last night and conducted themselves in such a professional manner. And we will continue to do so. But from me to the officers, to the women and men, I salute you. Thank you so much.
We're going to take one last question. This will be from Roger McDonough.
Hi, Chief Brown, Roger McDonough with KCPW Public Radio. You mentioned that the numbers would be coming in terms of where protesters were from. You may have already mentioned this, but how many were arrested last night? And then can you comment on the strategy of not being there at the outset of the protest as a police force, meaning en masse? How are you looking at that today, and how was that decision made to do that?
Yeah, we spoke about that yesterday, but the first part of your question, we've had about 41 individuals that have been arrested. But Salt Lake City has always been welcoming to anybody that wants to come here and express their voice. We hold sacred the First Amendment for people to come here and to demonstrate and protest, but we want it to be peaceful. We allowed that yesterday. And when it turned violent and started to enter into vandalism, we took a different course. We gathered our officers. We made a very strategic plan. One of the things that is always to be considered is you don't want to be the target of a protest. And we knew going in that we would be that target. And that's exactly what happened. But we moved very quickly. We had the resources. We gathered the necessary resources, and I thought we did an exceptional job taking care of the situation with given what had gone on.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're going to end it here. If you would like a recording of this press conference, we will have that available for you. Please reach out. But thank you for your time.